the Countryside Podcasts with Chris Skinner.
I'm wading out into a field to find Farmer Chris. And here he is, in the sun. It's a lovely morning.
Beautiful morning. Warm welcome to High Ash Farm. We're in August, would you believe, Matthew? Goodness me, the year is slipping away. And this morning, very early, there was that first sense of autumn. There was some dampness or some particular smell in the air, and I could see summer just beginning to lose its hold and autumn just squeezing into the wings, if you can understand that.
It was just that little bit fresher, isn't it?
Yeah, it's something.
The sun is low and
a subtle change.
Yeah. And wildlife picks up on that.
It does, and lots of changes. So I've had the first group of migratory swallows probably coming down from the north of the country. Oh, right over our head. I cannot believe it. Look at that. Perhaps 20, 25 swallows just sort of coming across the top of the trees, and that's a migratory group. They're probably not from High Ash, many of those.
Oh, so they're not your nesting ones just a few hundred yards over there?
No, you see these groups, and they're mainly juveniles, and in the north of the UK, swallows and house martins generally just bring off the one brood because the summer is quite intense early on but quite short, and then the birds start to migrate back very slowly southwards, and you get these sort of creches of young birds all by themselves, no parents with them. And I can't believe that just happened. We're looking up at nearly a clear blue sky.
And they're talking to each other as well.
Yes, they are. And they're just, obviously, they're memorised where they were all born, and they just are heading southwards. And they're high up, which is why it's a really interesting formation to see that. And it's happened a couple of times last week at the end of July, and then again this morning, because we're still early morning, pigeon cooing in one of the oak trees behind us. We're standing on Barnfield, which is 30 acres of overwinter wild bird seed mix. And last few weeks we've been looking at the pollen and nectar fields, and they're just about finished flowering. They've been on the go since sort of end of February, early March with the dandelions, and then right through until now. And the last pollen and nectar flow on those fields is the knapweed, which we looked at last week. Hardheads it's also called. Lots of lovely names. And now my ambition is to provide pollen and nectar right through the summer months, and that's exactly what I'm doing. We're looking over a crop of barley, and there's some triticale and some spring wheat mixed in here as well. But this is overwinter wild bird seed mix, and it's one of my star performers on the farm, and it comes into flower now. Right from now on, just as one sort of pollen and nectar flow finishes, this is starting. So we've got yellow flowers all around us, white flowers, blue flowers here, and that takes me back to my childhood. This particular one, a beautiful sort of Wedgwood-blue flower on top of a leafy, fine leafy stalk, and that's flax. So, and my father in the 1950s grew flax on this very field, and it was, I can just remember it as a 5-year-old, blue in the morning and the colour would disappear in the afternoon.
It was used for material, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Part of the scientific name of flax is linoleum, and you know lino.
Yeah, on people's kitchen floors.
But it was cut. It was like wire to cut, because my father didn't have a combine then. He had something called a binder with a little reciprocating knife, and it would throw out the sheaves out of the back of the binder, tied up with binder twine, all done on the machine. Then it was stacked in the farmyard. It was collected by lorry, with a trailer on the back of the lorry, and lots of workers would throw the sheaves up into the lorry, and then it went only about 6 or 7 miles away to a village on the south side of Norwich called Renningham, and there was a very large pit there, and it was called a retting pit. and you threw the flax sheaves into that in order to rot it, or ret, which is another name for it. Then the fibres were taken off and it was loaded back onto a lorry, and it went right across to Belfast, to the linen industry. Linoleum, linen. And
Belfast linen.
exactly
Very
that.
famous, yes.
Yes. So
But it's an industry that doesn't really exist anymore.
no, hardly. You can still buy good quality linen, and it's quite fashionable. As a cloth, it's a little bit coarse, but my mum's kitchen was a lino floor, and of course you have linseed putty as well. You could get oil from it, and that takes you through to cricket bats and oil in your bat, and
the putty for people doing the glaziers, doing the windows.
Yes, exactly, all of that. So some of the history. So the reason I grow it as part of this overwinter wild bird seed mix is it produces seeds which are rich in oil, as we were just talking about, perfect for the birds. But that's not all. Just look around us. There's a star of the show here, which is perennial sow thistle, now coming into flower. You can see these tall plants, not like normal sow thistle, and it's dotted all over the field. But if we come back in a week's time, this will be yellow. And then the white flowers here in front of us, if we get a little bit closer, it's in the form of a cross, and it's just flowering at the moment, just started to produce seeds in these little pods here. The pods are about 1 inch long, and there's 3 or 4 seeds in that. They will expand and become quite big. Oh, there's one behind you just there, fallen over.
Yes.
With almost, they look like almost pea pods. They're that large.
They do.
They will dry into a paper-like structure over the late autumn and into winter, and the only way in there to get the seed out is for the birds to peck into the pods. Again, superb food and available when the weather is bad. And when we come to that particular time of year, we call the hungry gap. I have that 2 or 3 times a day, I can tell you.
This field and this crop is designed to fill that hungry gap for
Yes.
many of our wild birds.
Yes, the yellow one over there is mustard. Again, that's going to produce pods as well. It is just doing that. We can just walk over and have a little look. It's in full flower. It's about 2 feet tall, and where I can just see some bees, and there's a fly landed on there. Again, the little flowers, the same family as the fodder radish. The flowers are 4 petals, so it's a crucifer. The flowers are in the shape of a cross, and here is the little seed pods just beginning to form. These were flowers a week ago, and you can see the same pod formation forming there. Now, I just saw something interesting behind us. If I walk back a step, hope I can just see it, because I did have a really big smile when I saw it. It suddenly disappeared in the undergrowth here, but it was hemp or cannabis, but it isn't the sort that you can extract the drug from. So rats been eating grass, and that hasn't really suited them. Oh, here it is.
Well, that does look like yes.
That's hemp. Yes, but not the sort that you would have any medicinal drug from at all. Yes.
You do get the occasional walker who'll pluck it out and bring it to you and say, look, what's...
I know it's not legal to grow it, but it used to be illegal not to grow it. Way back in the days of King John, when we were a sailing nation, hemp was used for rope making, of course. It's a really strong fibres. So that's just a taster. And then coming up all through the crop and all the way round us, when you look behind, just over the canopy of the crop, you can see bees working away, and the sunflowers here also going to produce oil-rich seeds. There's thousands of them. It's a superb spring for having sown the sunflowers, and they've now germinated and coming up level with the top of the crop, and just seeing the bees going down in the crop, because there's an understory of other plants here. We'll just walk through just a little bit and see if we can see some. Yep, here's one. Oh, absolutely perfect. It's an introduced species. It's called Phacelia, but it's like a magnet for bees, butterflies, and it stays flowering as well in the autumn. And Rat has to have a word in, even
Bit of
if
grass gone down the wrong way.
he's choking himself to pieces there.
Don't eat all your daddy's grass.
Yes, exactly. And here's another one just coming up above the crop. Oh, just coming into flower over here. Another step up and step forward. Here it is, one. The hairy stalk, and it's millet. And I've grown two sorts of millet here. And it's absolutely jam-packed with seed. Another one coming into flower there.
It's the stuff people used to feed budgerigars.
Exactly that, and it would produce a lot of seed. Look, there's one plant here, almost touching it, another plant. This hasn't started to produce the seed yet, but I've grown two species of millet in here, both very sort of important for the yellowhammers here. We had a flock of yellowhammers in late March, early April, and we just got to past the 200 mark, which is just absolutely incredible. So red and white millet, and that's just a touch of the tapestry of what I've sown on the field. Another one here, which is a British native plant, and it's put itself here as an enemy of sugar beet growers because it grows up in the sugar beet and would wrap round the shafts, and it's called fat hen. And my father grew it as a crop in New Zealand. It's really drought-resistant plant, but it's just a celebration. We're down on our hands and knees now, looking across the top of the crop, and you can see all in the distance, all you can see is white butterflies. There's a mixture here as the day goes on and the sun gets higher. There'll be some red admirals on here and some peacocks just imbibing the nectar that the field is yielding. But that's not its purpose. It's to produce food and seed for our native wild birds and anybody else that cares to come and enjoy the banquet that is at High Ash Farm.
We've moved to the other side of the farm. We're not far away from Chris's wonderful lake, the other side of the path here, and on a south-facing slope where we were not many days ago and enjoying all the colours. And you brought me back to this area.
I have, Matthew. I've had a surprise and a shock because we're right beside one of the permissive walks here at the farm. Green woodpecker calling behind us just then. I think we were being sworn at, and a hornet has just flown past you as well. That's a good sign. That I'll check this area of woodland out for hollow trees and see if we can do hornets and wasps in a future episode. This is their season now coming.
Can I have the day off when you do that?
No, it's compulsory. You have to come each week. So there we are. You haven't got a choice because we share jointly the joys, and that's what this is. South-facing slope. I first bought you here perhaps 4 years ago, and I reseeded this south slope. I know you wanted me to put vines on it because there's chalk immediately underneath us. The pH here is very high. It's over 8. It's close to 8.5. So got lots of calcium in the soil. It's very dry soil, and this sort of 2 acre bit of 10 acres of wildflowers here. As I re-sowed it, and we visited it last week to enjoy what I called a regal display. Red, white and blue galore. There's a path through the middle of it. And yesterday, mowing round the permissive walks here, so the grass is not too tall for anybody to walk through, people with wheelchairs as well sometimes, I suddenly caught something out of the corner of my eye and slammed the brakes on the tractor, and was really, I didn't know what I was looking at properly, and I have to confess, I do know my Norfolk wildflowers inside out, and I know this one has got a close cousin, and it's called clary, and what I didn't know is the one in front of us is called meadow clary, and it's rare. Matthew, behind you, buzzard. Look at that, just going only about 100 yards away from us.
Flying quite low, half the level of the trees.
Gone in. Perhaps that's why the green woodpecker was complaining bitterly, as he would do. So, We have a new plant at High Ash Farm which hasn't been here before. I don't know, if I'm honest, how it got here. First possibility is it was in the wildflower seed, the native British wildflower seed mix that I sowed on this particular area. Second point is we've had lots of orchids growing on here this year, yellow rattle, and I didn't plant either of those. We have a lot of worm activity. Now it's gone back to mainly grassland, and worms go down into the soil to make their little burrows, and at the same time they bring soil up with their little worm casts, and that can also contain the seeds from perhaps 50, 60, 70 years ago when a lot of this farm was grazed by sheep, because it's light land, a lot of it, and it was absolutely suitable for them. So it's a hands and knees job for our first wildflower visit to this particular one, meadow clary. And it's really, really unusual and stunningly beautiful. Just as I described, there's flowers at the top of a stem which are about a foot tall, and they're deep purple. I don't know quite what colour to describe it.
Yes, rock fans would enjoy that deep purple. They are. Well, it's saturated colour, that, isn't it?
It absolutely is. So it contrasts with the cornflowers, which are that lovely, well, cornflower blue right beside us, and that's what caught my eye. And then I saw something unusual. I got out the tractor and I've had to do a little bit of research on this, because lots of different names for this particular plant. It's called Provence tea and Catalan sage. There's two other names for it.
So that's Spain and France.
Yes,
but
look,
here,
because it likes arid soil, and you can see it's a cousin of sage. When we look down at the leaves here,
all those leaves are identical. Yes.
Yes, they're slightly rough, slightly bristly, and sage-leafed shape. So not like the ordinary clary, which has deeply serrated leaves. These are lance-shaped leaves. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. The top of the plant is in flower, this beautiful deep purple colour, but there are flowers halfway down the stalk.
Swallows flying into one of the large barns at High Ash Farm, feeding their young. This is one of the big conservation success stories I know you're very proud of.
Just brings a huge delight. 4 youngsters just waiting for mum and dad.
The podcast aims to bring you sights and sounds like this every week, and we're very thankful of your support. So any donations or subscriptions are very welcome indeed.
All we need is a little bit of extra help. It just keeps it going from week to week.
Monthly or one-off subscriptions, whatever the size, and the website highashfarm.com/podcast.
6 youngsters right above our head, all with their gates wide open. Those flowers don't open properly. They're cleistogamous. They don't actually open up completely. That just means they're self-pollinating. So they don't need insects. So the plant is kind of hedging its bets, if you like. It's really, really unusual. Now, even more fascinating, clary, the common name for it, this one's meadow clary, it really has come, it's a derivation of clear eye. The seeds used to be gathered, they'd be boiled just very lightly, lots of seeds, about a tablespoonful in boiling water, and then a jelly is kind of produced, and that was used to cure eye ailments, things, any sort of disease of the eye, and it was sort of, you'd bathe your eye in it. So basically it's clear eye what it comes for, but it's also used, because I used Provence tea, it's boiled, the leaves were boiled, and you have a kind of aromatic taste to it. You can mix it with lemon juice as well, the tea, and it's really quite pleasant. I have tried it, picking some leaves off some other ones. Yeah, it was almost acceptable. And then the sage, the sage part, you can use it in salads as well, these leaves.
So does it taste like sage?
Yes, it absolutely does. It's really, it's a herb. It is closely related to the sage family. lovely. So there we are. So and that's the first time I've seen it here at Irish Farm. I did see it perhaps about 40 years ago. I was into wildflowers way back then, but it wasn't in this part of the country. It was on the outskirts of Dorking. It was on Box Hill, which is sort of lots of yew trees there, and it's a really beautiful area. And where the rabbits had been grazing, I saw this plant, and that's the first time I came across it. So there we are, meadow clary, a brand new one for you, and right by the permissive walk here, mixed in amongst, just turning round looking behind us, I can see musk mallow, bright pink over there in the distance. I can see hoary mullein, Verbascum pulveolentum there, and an understory of cornflowers, and still to come out in flower, this one, which is another really aromatic one, feathery leaves. If you just crush one of those and then smell your fingers, it's it's really aromatic, very cleansing, and that's feverfew, which we have talked about before. But it's just fantastic to see this. And this is what you call biodiversity, and I suppose the questions I get asked most, what am I actually doing here? I mean, not what am I doing here, but how's all this happened? Is it rewilding? And I say, no. Is it wildlife restoration? Is it not really? But to be honest, I've done what I can, and nature has kind of led the way. I suppose that is what happens with rewilding. It's nature-led and human-assisted. But a lot of the rewilding projects I have concerns about, because deer culling still happens, predator control still happens on them, and I think you should come away and shut the gate, if you like, behind it. Whereas just restoration, it's more of a human help hand in there, and nature kind of follows on behindhand. So it's a little bit confusing as to what I've done, but I love to stand back and let nature do what nature does, and the rewards are things like this plant in front of us, meadow clary, which is quite rare. It's really unusual. It will only grow on this soil type with a chalky soil, and all around us there's plants going to come out. There's some borage there just going to come out, and there's another meadow clary behind you. So my job later this morning is to get Laura Cuffin here with the camera, so we can put it on High Ash Farm Facebook page, and everybody can enjoy that. I mean, it's orchid-like. It's just an extraordinary plant, which is why I slammed the tractor brakes on and did a whoop.
Oh, I'd like to have heard that, I must say. No, I'd never heard of meadow clary. I know a few people called clary. I wonder if that surname comes from there.
I would think so. Just basically it's clear eye, and it was used, the sort of almost frog spawn like jelly that you get from the seeds when you boil them was used as an early sort of remedy for eye ailments. So clear eye or clary, beautiful. Just let's walk up this hill a few steps. Look at that for a specimen. Rat has narrowly missed it. There it is, absolutely perfect and beautiful.
The sun coming through the canopy here in the woodland, and we've come into Fox's Grove, Chris, and here we are with the pickup truck, and you've got something rather interesting in there, haven't you?
Yes, Matthew, I'm just going to drop the tailgate. There we are. And wow is all I can say to this.
Is it a barbecue?
You're always thinking of your stomach. This is serious conservation stuff we're talking about here.
Well, it's a green looking, and it does look like you could grill some sausages on it, but it's presumably... it's plastic, so that wouldn't work.
It's heavy-duty plastic with an entrance to inspection panel underneath, and it is the most luxurious owl nesting box that I've ever come across, and High Ash Farm has been donated 2 of these, really beautifully made, very, very strong and sturdy, and absolutely perfect as well, and with a landing board on the front for the young owls as well, both when parents land on it. It's going to be put up shortly on the farm. There's 2 of them, so I'm going round the avenues of oak trees and choosing one. It doesn't need to be too high up, probably about 4 to 5 metres up. Barn owls often fly and they will nest quite low down occasionally. But in the past I've put barn owl boxes up and they've been occupied in the first year. My daughter, when she moved into her first house, somebody had a dog there, and there was a large, almost brand new kennel, and it was really heavily made, and I converted it just a little bit, put a landing board on it, and put it up in an oak tree. Within 4 weeks, there was a beautiful pair of barn owls nesting in it. I think I put it up in about early February, and by the end of the month, the female was incubating eggs in there. So you can help nature along the way by providing nesting habitats. A lot of the old hollow trees got blown down in recent gales over the last few years. Anything with a fault on it is quite vulnerable for snapping off. And the other thing that's happened is many of the old barns, corn barns where farmers used to store their corn, and the apex of the building, often they were clay block barns, there would have been a little owl hole left in the top because they are really good in the winter months at keeping the vermin, the rats and the mice out of your sacks of corn which was stored in the grain barns. So it's time to sort of halt and reverse the decline of one of our most iconic birds, the barn owl. And also, if you put it fairly near woodland as well, barn owls don't particularly like going in woodland, neither do little owls, but in the woodland here and all around us, which is why I come in here this morning. If I'm here in the evening, I sometimes bring a little picnic down and sit in the centre of the wood here, just as the sun has set, and then tawny owls start calling, particularly from now on, once we get into late August, and wood pigeon calling just behind us, beautiful, and a pair of gatekeeper butterflies just pirouetting above your head, going up. That's called turreting, where they're going round and round each other. What a lovely sight. They're gatekeepers, the sort of follow-on from the meadow browns. So really beautiful little butterflies there. So thank you very much indeed to Jason Davey. And he's from the Suffolk Barn Owl Support Organisation. BOSS for short, Barn Owl Support Suffolk.
It's like a green coloured barrel, about half the height of a barrel, with an opening maybe 3 or 4 inches across, not quite round, more oval, and there's a very heavy duty platform outside. Also looks like there's an opening at the top.
Yes, there's an air vent for them, because it can, if you have 3 or 4 owlets in there, it can get quite warm, so air can rise up through and come out of the vent at the top. I mean, it's the bee's knees of owl boxes there, so I will have to put a little note on to the side if it's out on one of the oak trees on the farm. No jackdaws, because any hole nesting bird, stock doves would really go for this one. They're hole nesting members of the dove family, and we do have stock dove nesting in this woodland, and they'll often call out, particularly where we are. I've put some nest boxes underneath limbs of trees, and that's a real favourite with the stock dove. It's a lovely call early evening or early morning. It's a woo, 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 like that. So, and underneath this monumental owl box, I've been supplied with some heavy duty brackets as well.
So which tree are you going to put it up in, do you
that
think?
will be on the outside. It'll be one of the avenues of oak trees outside this area woodland, because this is specifically for barn owls.
On the north side of a tree?
Yes, it will be on the north or the northeast side, facing away from the prevailing wind and the sunshine, whereas little owl boxes, I now have learnt to face the other way. They're strange little creatures, diurnal. They love sunning themselves, so particularly early in the morning, they'll sit on the perches out in the full sunshine, feathers fluffed up, just sort of enjoying the warmth of the sun. So I face those the opposite way, but the boxes I use for little owls are over 1 metre long, about 14, 15 inches diameter and hollowed out completely. So it's a hollow tree trunk, if you like, in a horizontal mounting, and the little owls nest in those, and they're hugely successful. So all the creatures have slightly different nesting requirements, and that's why, it's taken a whole lifetime to learn who wants what and where, because, as I said, you won't find little owls in these woodlands. The tawnies would actually catch them and eat them, and it's that you see or be eaten, I can promise you, out in the countryside.
It is eat or be eaten round here, isn't it? Oh, well, good luck with the new boxes, and Jason, that's absolutely marvellous. I never knew that an owl box could be quite so des res as that.
Yeah, absolutely. Neither did I. That is the bee's knees, we'll call that one.
Let's look at some of your correspondence. And
Yes.
a terrific amount of emails and some things through the post as well. Let's say hello to Nancy Jolliffe, who lives on the Norfolk coast, not far from here, at Overstrand, which is
Yes.
very close to Cromer, isn't it?
Yes, and she's got a little patch of land there, and she's been doing what she can for nature. She loves the podcast and loves any broadcasts I do, and learns so much from it. And she always writes me little letters, usually comes through the post. I can tell her handwriting a mile off, and it's just explaining what's happening in her little patch of Norfolk and all the different creatures that come. And she's doing what I'm doing and just enjoying watching nature come back to that little part of North Norfolk.
And Nancy on her card says, some time ago I acquired some teasel seed from you, Chris, and broadcast them where I hoped they may thrive. Nothing. A short time later, a sturdy seedling took root by my doorstep. Now it is magnificently in flower, so nature knows best, says Nancy.
And you're quite right there, so well done. And that's something I often do just for fun, post off little packs of seeds that I'm harvesting at a particular time of year. The teasel harvesting time for the seed, most of which is for the goldfinches and the greenfinches here at the farm. We've got the teasel maze open at the moment, all free to enter that and walk round and just get lost. The seed, I'll harvest some of that, and that will be in September time.
Got a note from Nigel Harvey, who you may remember on a previous episode sent us a photograph of lots of wriggling caterpillars, and we identified them as brown-tailed moths, Chris, on the podcast. Nigel's just querying that because he's looked at other photographs of the moth, and it showed a hairy and tufted caterpillar, whereas this image, the original image, shows brown and hairless.
Yes, and I've sort of Googled it myself, and I've come up again with the brown-tailed moth, but I can see the difference in the caterpillars. These are about an inch long, the length of a match, I suppose, and a little brown tip on them. And so it's a little bit confusing because there are literally thousands of species of moths in the UK, but very few of them. The brown-tailed moth is one of them. The adult is white and furry. It's got a little tip of brown hairs at the tip of its abdomen, and only very few of them have these colonial webs like that. But I will try and do a bit more research. But I got my son to Google that image this morning, and it came up instantly with brown-tailed moth yet again. So there we are. We'll keep trying until we get the right species.
It is a labyrinthine subject matter. As you
Absolutely.
always say, if the butterfly species are in their hundreds,
Yes.
the moth species are in their thousands.
Well, there's probably under 50 British native butterflies. It's that bad, and they're literally thousands of moths. I spend hours trawling through a moth book. So I'll end up looking like one before long, but I am about at night as well as during the day. So
And you are attracted by light, aren't you?
absolutely, yes.
He
yes.
just circles around his light bulb in his kitchen, don't you? And here's an email from Jill Lilly, who lives in the Norwich area, and was going past a wildflower meadow recently in the Yare Valley. Every morning, in fact, she walks there, just to the south of Norwich near Bluebell Lane, and there were several white poppies appearing amongst the field poppies. I had no idea they were rare. We were talking, I think, about unusual coloured poppies, and there's one Yeah, it's very white with a pink blush, and there's another one with a interesting pattern of red and pink there, as well as the white. They don't look like the traditional poppies, do
No,
they?
they're not. When you look closely, the white poppy that we found here at High Ash Farm, which I shared with a wildlife enthusiast, somebody called Grace Corn, we both decided it was the genuine white poppy and quite rare. The poppy that the photo's been sent of, if you look at it carefully, it's a double poppy, and lots of people started breeding them. There was a vicar in the southern half of the UK that got fascinated by poppies of various colours, and he bred some with white petticoats, sort of fringes around the petals, but many of them were double poppies. They weren't like the ones that we've looked at this morning, where you just have one single layer of 4 or 5 petals. Nearly always those petals drop off at midday, and then a new set of flowers come the following day. Very long lived in the soil, but really lovely picture nevertheless to see the wildflower field down there in the Yare Valley, and really lovely. They love disturbed soil, so although you might have them in profusion this year, unless the field is recultivated after they've seeded, you won't perhaps have only 1 or 2 poppies in the same area next year.
Jill really enjoys your talks about wildflowers, and in fact she always has a reference book handy so she can look them up as you mention them.
Oh, excellent. Well, this week's speciality is the meadow clary, and have a look at that. But on High Ash Facebook, for this Sunday's podcast, fingers crossed Laura Cuffin will trouch up to the farm with her camera and a little macro lens on it, and we'll all be able to enjoy that.
High Ash Farm Facebook for all goings-ons and images. Just keep that on the computer and have a look every now and again. And if you'd like to ask Chris a question, send a comment or a message. The email address, chris@highashfarm.com. And there's the High Ash Farm website as well, highashfarm.com podcast. And if you want to visit that to make a donation, it's quite a straightforward process. We can accept a monthly donation or a one-off, and all money gratefully received to try and keep this little feature going.
Yes, it's something we both love doing, and unfortunately there's costs of sort of putting the podcast up and all the bits and pieces that come, but it's nominal, but we both love doing it. And Daniel, my son's the tech whiz kid, and we managed to cobble it together. But as I say, Daniel and Matthew both make a silk purse from what I call a sow's ear. Thank you, Matthew.
You did used to keep pigs here, didn't you, years ago?
I certainly did, yes. I live in a piggery, would you believe? It's the old pig sty for the farmhouse. So there we are. You can't make it up. But those 2 butterflies over there are still cavorting round in a very tight circle. It was just lovely to see them going around. They were gatekeeper butterflies. Really beautiful orange on the upper side of the wings and the hind wings as well, turreting up into right up into the tree canopy in a tight little sort of not much bigger than a tennis ball. And just look beside and behind us for flowering June, July next year. Literally hundreds and hundreds of foxgloves, Digitalis purpurea, and there's a lovely hoverfly, large species, looks like a wasp, but just basking in the sunshine. But that's a hoverfly. Just wonderful. Nature is fantastic, yes.
Enjoy August.
There they are, just going past us, just almost in a circle, like they're spinning wool together. So gatekeeper butterflies, keep your eyes out for those. Early August is their season.